Why is it important to shift that energy? You've got these business entrepreneurs who are trying to get messages out. They're trying to package their knowledge. 90% of it's in their head, isn't it? Whether they're successful or not. Kind of it's a mind game. And we kind of go up and down of whether we think people want to listen to us or nobody wants to listen to us, or all that kind of self-doubt and overwhelm and all that kind of stuff. So shifting, maybe each of you take a minute and talk about why it's important to shift your energy to somewhere positive. Does it affect your bottom line? I know for me, it's almost like a barometer. If I'm down, my revenues go down. And if I'm up, my revenues go up. It's almost like as an entrepreneur, you're tapped straight into some kind of a flow that's controlled by your mindset. Have y'all experienced something similar?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it can be as simple as, in the simplest example, when you're feeling really good and you're feeling engaged and alive and confident, then you call that potential client, you return the email really quickly and say, yes, here's my program. I can't wait to share it with you. Let's set up a call. And you're very engaging and enrolling because you're feeling, so aligned with what you're doing. But on those days or those moments where you're in the doubt vortex, and you start second guessing yourself or doubting what you have is worthwhile, then you delay returning that email, you go do the laundry and clean the closet and do anything and everything except return that client call. It's really hard to enroll people in a program. On a real super practical level, to me, your energy is one of the most important things that you can manage. And it does fall directly to your bottom line. And we all experience that. So to me, it's so important to watch your energy and manage your energy. Not that you're not going to have down times or rest phases, as you call them, Arnie, but that's all a natural part of it. Can't be on all the time, but you really don't want it to just get out of control and not pay attention to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Those of us that are in these kinds of businesses, a lot of us are creatives. We get juiced up by the ideas that we have and how those ideas can impact other people in their own movement, in their own evolution, in their own growth. And so every time that you step out of that sphere of comfort, which is on an ongoing basis because our businesses are evolving, you're going to feel that discomfort. And it's not like the doubts and the inner game and what I'm lately have been calling the inner alchemy. What you have to do about that inner game is this inner alchemy, which is reorienting. That's an ongoing thing. And I was just mentioning this on a call this morning with my mastermind buddies, that it amazes me. Since the beginning of the year, I've actually been practicing what I teach. So, it's like you get caught up in doing your business, delivering your work. And I personally have stopped my practices that keep me really in the groove and in the zone. And since I've started doing it, it's just amazing the things that have occurred. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's all I have to do. Right. So it's really a matter of focusing. So when we talk about shifting, it's really about that ability that we each have to shift our focus into a playground, into an energy that is that is expansive, that's creative, where the insights and everything just arise. And it's just like, it's like pixie dust, because the words for your marketing copy, flow, your ideas for your programs, it's almost like everything just starts lining up, because the thing that's in the way of that is your own energy just being constricted, because of these ideas or these thoughts which are really, most of the time, is just the yakety yak that's going on in our head. Because we hear from everybody else, it's reflected either from our communities, our colleagues, how amazing our work is or how wonderful this is, and it's just all of a sudden, there may be one little thing that you see or you hear somewhere, and all of a sudden you latch onto that, instead of all the other amazing things that we do on a regular basis. And it's a habit, it's just a habit. And so this ability to shift that we each bring to our work and to our communities is really key, because nowadays we really have to be able to shift our energy on a dime. So, yeah.
So talk about maybe one tool that somebody can use to shift their energy that you use, Adela.
I use a whole bunch. I've actually been I've been revisiting my friend Julia Cameron from The Artist's Way. And so one of the tools that I use extensively is writing. So I journal a lot. And what I've been doing regularly since the beginning of the year, it's like I had forgotten about journaling. Even though I remember last month I wrote several blog posts on journaling, and I forgot all about it. So I've been journaling, and then the other thing that I do, I have a whole bunch of decks. I have goddess decks, I've got tarot decks, and so what I'll do is I'll draw a card and then I'll do some free flow writing. And that gets me into my creative zone and frees me up, and also makes me feel supported by life, or if you want to call it God, or the universe, or source, whatever you want to call it, the creative force of life. It reconnects me to the essence of who I truly am. And so all that other stuff that sometimes, the static that's going on in our minds, it can move. And who I am and my creativity just arises easily.
Okay.
That's what I love to do.
What about you, Laura? What do you do?
Yeah, very similar. I do those things. I'm sure we have similar rituals, but a lot of it is about ritual. And so one of the things that I have done for probably about 8 years now, is I have a morning creative time. I used to call it my creative bagel time. And I get out of the house and I go to a cafe and I'll have a little something to eat or a cup of tea, read something inspirational, journal, mind map. And it's like I'm priming the pump, priming my mindset, priming my creativity, priming the flow to get things going in a way that's really aligned with what it is that I want to create. And so that is one that works for me just really brilliant. The more that I do that, the more that my day actually goes in a positive direction and seems to expand more towards what it is that I really want. And then in the moment, we still have that in the moment where, Adela, as you had referenced, sometimes somebody says something or you just all of a sudden those little doubts kind of creep in, those little gremlins. And then there's just things, like calling a girlfriend or, getting in touch with your mastermind buddies. I'm real big about that because sometimes you just need to get out of your own stuff, and hear it reflected back from somebody else. Even just going outside, watching for a hummingbird, getting the mail, petting the cat, just kind of, anything to get your energy moving and and more in the flow will just do wonders for, taking you away from that doubt vortex and more into that creative flow. But we just have to remember to do it, not just sit there and marinate in the junk.
Yeah, I like those. One of the things that I do when I get if I'm really in a funk and I've got all those negative things swimming around in my head, have you ever noticed that if you've got tons of things to do and you don't make a list, it seems even more overwhelming? You might make a list and realize you only had 5 things to do, but it felt like 100 because it was, you hadn't written it down. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll take all the negative thoughts that are swimming around in my head and write them down so I get them out. And then I'll consciously flip them around to the opposite, and say, okay, I'm going to get rid of this old list. I'll wad it up or burn it or something, the negative stuff, and then have these good things that I'm going to replace it with. So, and exercise work really well.
And I think you bring up a great point too, Marnie, is that I think we hear so much about gratitude and being positive and optimistic that sometimes we think we're supposed to sit down and write all the good things that are happening. And why can't you just do that on a dime? But sometimes you can't. Sometimes you've got to get the crap out. You've got to make the list of here's the things that I need to do. Here's the things that are worrying me or bothering me. Then you're able to go to the positive expansive mode. Yeah, I find you just have to it's almost like in Harry Potter, I always think of when he has that magic wand and he pulls out like a memory. I always think, every time I see that, I think, he's pulling out like a negative thought or something. Wish I could do that.
Yeah, because if you just ignore them, they start to back up on you, They come out in your body, you start getting sick, you get stressed, sticking your head in the sand doesn't really work. in the long run, I don't think.
Yeah, you know what? I want to add one more thing because this one has really been helping me, even though it's cold here now in the Northeast. One of the things that's really been helping me is I go to a local reserve here in the mornings. It's like a 30-minute drive for me, but it's worth it because I go by myself, you know, not in company, so there's no yakety yakking. And just being in nature, it's almost like there's a realignment of my whole being, like my whole being gets to vibrate to a different frequency. So that's one of the things that I took, especially if I'm feeling particularly troubled and lost, which I still do. I have those moments, I have those days when I feel like that. Just going out there for a walk, just in a natural environment, it recalibrates me. And I feel freer. It's just, it never fails to work.